Americans in a third of the country are still under extreme heat warnings. Cities across the Northeast saw record-breaking temperatures over the weekend, with some reaching 95 degrees and above. But experts say relief is still days away. Here's CBS News weather producer David Parkinson. David, tell us, what does the forecast look like ahead for the 4th of July and beyond?
Well, I mean, when you talk about those numbers, we broke a record in Burlington, Vermont, which is almost as far north as you can get. They hit 97 today. That felt like 104 degrees. And some of those other temperatures are pretty darn close. The feels like temperature in Washington, D.C. was 108 today.
What is that? Describe what that feels like. What does 108 feel like when you're walking across the concrete in a parking lot to your car?
So when you walk across the concrete in bare feet, you will burn your feet. I mean, that is the bottom line there. Is asphalt at 140 degrees is when you have an air temperature of 95. Like that's the match there. You can fry an egg at 130 degrees. And
you can burn your feet.
So if you can fry an egg, you can burn feet. Correct, right.
Wow.
You can burn your feet in that kind of time. So yes, men is about 125 degrees in 95-degree heat. Sand, actually, believe it or not, is not all that much cooler. So you need to wear those flip-flops as you're heading out on the beach. And then if you're talking about a car, when you get to 30 minutes, it's 129 degrees, and after 60 minutes, it's over 140. So that's why it's absolutely not okay to leave anyone or anything in a car for even 5 minutes.
Absolutely. Now, is this just too hot to even head to the beach, or will you get cooler air coming in off the ocean?
So the interesting thing is you'll get a sea breeze, right? You'll get wind blowing a little bit off the water, but it doesn't extend far. Like if you go to one of the concession stands that's at the back, like you don't feel that sea breeze. It's right on the water. You got to get like right up on that umbrella line. But yeah, you'll get a little bit of relief. The water temperature is quite cool. It's still in the 60s, maybe pushing 70 on some spots. Right. Make sure that you have lifeguards again, because that cold water is a little bit of a shock. There's some strong undertows in spots. But when you look at how much of the country is being covered by this heat wave, it's no wonder that people are finding any body of water they can to cool off. So what are the most important tips for staying safe? I mean, obviously we hear hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Absolutely. So don't exert yourself during peak daylight hours. Or the funny thing is that if you look at the temperatures for the 4th of July fireworks, the feels like temperatures will be in the 80s or 90s. So this is, and that's in the evening? That's in the evening. Oof. So at 9 p.m. when the fireworks go off in Nashville, that's what you're seeing on this graphic. It'll feel like 91 degrees. It'll have felt like 102 earlier in the day. Wow. In D.C., it'll feel like 83 on the Mall. In Philly, it'll feel like 87. And in New York, it'll feel like 85. So maybe watch those on TV.
Well, can we expect this to last throughout the rest of the summer? Or I mean, what's going on?
Unfortunately, the pattern for all of the month of July looks to be above average for much of the country, with the exception of the Pacific Northwest. So when we talk about next week, it's just the desert Southwest that doesn't have above average temperatures. They just have average temperatures. Right, they're normal hot temperatures, right? There is an excessive heat watch for the Phoenix area, for Vegas, for LA. That's going into the weekend. But then as we head into next week, we cool down a little bit in the Northeast and warm back up. So time to visit Seattle. Yeah, that would pretty much be the answer. And then, you know, as we go into the month of July for all of it, maybe Montana, maybe northern Idaho, or go visit our friends in British Columbia. Is it too early to say what August looks like? It is a little bit early, but there is at least a chance that the pattern will break a little bit. The good news, bad news here is tropical development looks really weak. So we don't look to be developing any tropical storms anytime soon. The bad news is the water will be superheated, so it won't take much, perhaps later in the season. And David, scientists say these heat waves are directly related to global warming, correct? They are well correlated. So not every one can be attributed, but you are going to expect to see, in the cases of global warming, more hot weather days and more very hot weather days. The number of days above 90 in places like St. Louis and in places like Washington, D.C. have gone up by more than a dozen in the past 30 years. All right, folks, brace yourselves. Find some AC. Yes, that's right. David, thank you so much. Sure thing.